Welcome back to my channel. I am Ana Munguia and I talk about unplanned pregnancies, turn chaos and despair into the best thing that ever happened to you. And I'm here in part 2 of my unplanned pregnancy number 2, and I want to continue the story. So what happened was, in a little review, if you haven't seen my last session of unplanned pregnancy, I had an unplanned pregnancy number 2. I was married. I was about to get a separation. We were talking already about separating ourselves or getting a divorce when I get pregnant. The whole story is in the last video. You can go up and look at it. But I want to tell you what's happening during my pregnancy. I am in despair. I am in a turmoil, like all unplanned pregnancies, but this time I'm married. I'm supposed to be a happy mom, and I have a big mask of happiness outside, but inside I was in a big mess. I was depressed and I couldn't show it. I was working. I had a job I didn't like because I was getting into all these problems and issues and discussions with my boss. And from being hired to be an executive in that building and in that company, I was sent to the back part to another building where they repaired the computers. I was in a computer place where they sell microcomputers. I'm talking about desktops. Laptops did not exist yet. It was desktops that was like the thing to have and the most phenomenal thing to have in those days. I'm talking of early 1980s. I mean, I'm that old, yeah. I'm in my late 50s, if you want to know. So I'm in the 80s, mid 80s. It was 1986 to be exact. So the microcomputers are the first thing that are going big, and this is like the company to buy the desktops of those ages, of those times, IBM desktops. And here I am in the warehouse. I was sent to the warehouse where there was no air conditioning. Now here, I live in Central America. Right now I'm in the US, that's why I have this white wall. This is not my office. I'm in my son's apartment. I'm with the COVID, I'm doing this while the coronavirus is going on, and I'm in the US and I can't go back home because the airports are closed, but that's another story. The thing is that in those days, I'm in the warehouse, no AC. I'm with the repair guys, the guys that repair the computers, with a secretary, and I have no job to do. I have nothing to do. I mean, there was a secretary there to do that, and I was not hired to be a secretary. I was a college graduate. I was the manager. I was hired to be a manager. And here I'm sent to the back office in another building, in a horrible building, coming from a beautiful building that I helped to supervise, to be built. And now I'm pregnant. I'm having problems with my husband because we're talking about divorce after the baby is born. I'm having problems with my boss. He doesn't like anything that what I do, and he sends me this place. Now, in my country, you can change somebody, an executive, you can change the position of an executive, that's legal, but you cannot lower the pay, okay? So what happened was that he, after like a couple of months of having me there with no job, because I was not doing anything, I would just sign up there, show up, I was there to get paid. Literally, I went there to do nothing. Literally, I was doing nothing. Just thinking in my head, why am I having this baby? Why is this baby coming? I didn't want to know the what sex it was. I didn't want to know if it was a girl or a boy. I just didn't want to know. I just was afraid to even know if it was a girl or a boy. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to be pregnant, so I get it. So after work, I would go to this place, as I said in my last video, a place that I used to go with my grandfather. Okay, so my grandfather, I'm going to talk about his story one day, but I'm just going to touch this. When I was 4 years old, me and my another cousin, he's a male cousin, and me were the little ones of those cousins. And we would go with my grandfather in a ride early in the mornings. And he would take us to see some cows that were near the city. In this place where nowadays there's a hotel, a 5-star hotel, but in those days, 1980s, no, I'm talking about 1960s, 1960s, when I was 4 years old, I would go to this place with him to see the cows, and there were no cows anymore, of course. 20 years later, there's no cows. But I used to go there just, I don't know, as like a safe, like if it was my like safe blanket of my childhood happy times. I had to go back to those happy times. I had to remember when I was happy. And I had a good childhood. I was a happy child. I was. But at this time, I was not happy. I was the most disappointed human being on earth. I just rejected myself. I rejected all what I have done. I rejected my decisions. I rejected my life. I rejected everything. So I would go to this place at after 5 that I got out of the office where I'm not doing anything. I would go there and cry and cry and cry my eyes out. I had nobody to talk. I mean, I was talking to the secretary, okay, telling her about my problems with my husband. And she had her own problems too. So we would all talk about our problems. It didn't help. She could not advise me anything, and I couldn't advise her anything because we were both in a big turmoil, except I was pregnant and she wasn't. And then I would just cry by myself in solitude, in isolation, in loneliness. And I would carry with myself the burden that I had rejected that baby that I was carrying in a womb. I could not put myself into embracing the pregnancy. That's how low I was in my emotions. Because as I say, when you have nobody to talk to, nobody to tell your things, nobody to tell how you feel and what you're going through, you feel like that. Do you relate? Girl, do you relate? I was there. And so my boss got the brilliant idea of lowering my income because he felt he was paying too much to me for doing nothing. And he was right. I was doing nothing. So I didn't deserve that high pay that I was getting. But still, by law, he could not lower my income. And by law, he could not kick me out. He could not fire me from the company because I was pregnant. And if he would fire me, he had to pay by law the rest of my pregnancy months plus my maternity leave months. He had to pay them by law. So I was, just waiting, looking at the days go by, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then, Friday, finally Friday. I don't have to work on Saturdays. Then Monday, Monday, go back to work. Have you been there? Hating a job? I was there. Anyway, I had gone before getting fired and before being pregnant. I have gone to these interviews because I was looking for another job. I was not happy right there. So I had gone to some interviews before, but they never called back. So I continued and continued. Then I had the pregnancy, and then I couldn't move because I was pregnant. And anyway, the thing is that he tried to lower my income. And in those days, my mom's husband was of good service to me. I got into a good place there because he was friends. He happened to be friend of the what is it called? The minister of work of my country. He was like the top hot shot there, the work minister. He knew him. And he calls him. He says, listen, I have my daughter. I'm not his daughter, but he says that, my stepdaughter, or I don't know what he said. The thing is that she's pregnant and she has a problem with the boss. Can you receive her? And I go to his office, okay, to this minister's office, and tell him my whole story and cry to him because I'm being kicked out of the office. I don't have a job and I'm pregnant and I don't know what to do and blah, blah, blah. And the guy says, oh, who's the lawyer of your boss? I said, so-and-so. Oh, so-and-so. Okay, no problem. He gets the phone. He says, so-and-so. He goes, yep, this is so-and-so, the minister of work calling you. He goes, oh, yeah, they're friends from college, so they know each other, probably from high school too. I don't know, but they were friends. And he says, listen, I have in my office a such and such lady. She's pregnant. She looks pregnant and very pregnant. And you know the case is lost. So I suggest that you arrange with her out of court because you know you're going to lose the case. And that's what he said. And he hung us up. Oh, because when my boss fired me, I said, I am going to the court. He says, go to the court. You're going to take 2 years to get your money. That's what he said. And he was seeing me pregnant. What a mean guy. And I said, we'll see. And then I turn around, I do these calls. And next thing I know, it took me 2 weeks to get my check. 2 weeks, not 2 years, but 2 weeks. So that was, yeah, God is in my side. Now I'm thinking about God is in my side. Yes, now I'm winning here. And what happened was that exactly that Friday before I was kicked out of that place, I received a call from this office. I have gone for an interview. This place that it's called Junior Achievement. I don't know if you know Junior Achievement, but I love Junior Achievement. I was a Junior Achievement girl when I was in high school. And now they're calling me that there's a position there and they wanted to interview me again. And when they asked me about my plans, I had to say, listen, I am pregnant and I'm very pregnant. I'm 6 months pregnant, to tell you the truth. And the guy that interviewed me, I mean, the Junior Achievement guy that interviewed me were like the top management guys from the big companies of my country. And he said, okay, no problem. We need you and we want you now. We cannot wait for you to have the baby and go through the maternity leave. No, we need you now. So I get fired on Friday. I go to a meeting on Monday to the minister, and on Tuesday, I'm in my new job. See, God is with you. He was with me. He resolved my life, and he showed me that his love is with me and that he was in charge and that he had sent my baby and that I had to just trust his will on me. I didn't see it that way. I was just like, yes, I got a job at 6 months pregnant. That's a miracle right there. Okay, so I go to my new job. I was happy. It's a whole different people that I'm talking with, and my coworkers are, it's another story. It's another type of people and environment. I was happy. Those last months were happy for me. I remember them happy, but my baby was not growing and she wasn't kicking. I didn't know it was a she yet, but she wasn't kicking. But I didn't know she had to kick because I was the first time mom. That's why this is also talking about first time moms, that we don't know some things. We are naive. We have so many questions. We have absolutely no idea of what is supposed to happen because the doctors, you go to the gynecologist and they don't tell you much. They just measure you and they say, there, it's okay. Heartbeat, it's okay. And goodbye. And I didn't know she had to be kicking me, and she wasn't, but I didn't say anything. I knew I was like feeling good. She wasn't bothering me, so I just went on. The thing is that she didn't grow. And then I started to have my feet were starting to get swallowed. And that I consulted with the doctor. And it happened that he sent me to bed and I had to go to rest because I was keeping too much water in my feet or in my body, but it showed in my feet and my hands got swallowed, so that I had to be careful. And actually I had preeclampsia. And that it's another miracle because most women that got preeclampsia, it's I don't even know what that is to explain it to you. I'm going to investigate scientifically what it is to explain what that is. But since I was naive and dumb at that time and I didn't know much about these things, I just I didn't even know I was having that problem. And most women that have preeclampsia, they get high blood pressure for good right after that birth, but I didn't. The high blood pressure went down and I'm fine. I've never taken any drug for high blood pressure. The thing is that I had to go to bed and to rest my last 15 days before giving birth. Now at this time, I was having a computer contest because we had to buy like 20 computers, and I did this contest with all the distributors of computers because I was there in that niche, so I knew everybody that would sell them, and I had to do a contest to get the best bidder and the best price and the best type of computers that we needed for the computer rooms that we were putting in all the junior achievement headquarters around the country. And I was in charge of that. And I remember that the due date was June 13. It was a Friday, and that was the due date. Now I'm being sent to rest for these 2 weeks. I could not get up. I could not drive. I could not go to the office. I could not work. I had to be resting because my baby was at risk. But since I was naive and dumb and I didn't know how much risk I had with my baby, the 13th, as a good, responsible employee, I got up, I went to the office, I received the contestants' portfolios that they brought with all their with the results of what they were offering, and then I went to the doctor. I mean, I had to get up to go to a doctor's appointment, so I just figured I'll get up 2 hours earlier, I'll go to the office, get the work with me to take it home. Well, I can review it when I'm, in my bed, and then go to the office. So I did go to the clinic, and the doctor saw me. He made that revision. The heartbeat was good. The size was a little bit small. And then he makes that touch that he goes inside of you and touches there where you don't want to be touched. And he says, I don't feel the head. I'm like, what do you mean you don't feel the head? No, I think it's seated and it hasn't turned around. Now I'm 38 weeks pregnant and the baby has not turned around. He said he suspects that. And he sent me to make an ultrasound. Now, ultrasounds now are really common. But in 1986, there was only one person in my country that would do that. And we had to take turns. So he scheduled it as an emergency for the next day that was a Saturday. And I remember this very clearly because we also were in that 1986 was the Soccer World Cup. And I don't know if you know anything about soccer, but all the Latins in Europe and in a lot of places, the Soccer World Cup is a big deal. It's a big feast. Everybody's looking at it and watching the games. And my country doesn't even go to the contest. They never, I mean, they have gone twice in their lifetime ever since it existed. But we were not participating as a country, but we are also, everybody loves soccer and everybody watches it. So I'm thinking, we are in the soccer game and it was kind of towards the end of the soccer contest. And the doctor sends me to the ultrasound and I'm gonna go back to the soccer game. Just bear with me. So he sends me to the clinic. They make my ultrasound. The baby is seated. The technician tells me that I have very little liquid. Until this day, I thought that the placenta was the same sac where the baby was. I didn't know the placenta was one thing and the sac was another thing with the amniotic liquid. I didn't know it was different. I mean, I was naive. I didn't know anything about sex anyway. I was naive at 21 and now I'm 23 at this time. Or 22, no, 23. I'm 23 by now. And she says I have very little liquid and that my placenta is calcified. I'm like, what do you mean calcified? She goes, oh, your doctor is gonna explain to you. So take this envelope to him and he's gonna explain everything. That's what she said. And I'm like, okay. So I take it to the doctor. He does not work on Saturdays. I give it to his secretary and the secretary asked me, where are you gonna be? I'm like, oh, since I'm out, I'm gonna go to the beauty parlor. I'm gonna do my nails. I'm gonna do my feet, my toes, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna cut my hair and fix it so I'm ready for the pregnancy, for the delivery. Imagine those things. Anyway, so I tell her, when I least expect it, when I'm with my hand out for the manicure and my foot out for the pedicure, and another girl is blow drying my hair, the doctor comes into the beauty parlor. And I'm like, doctor, what are you doing here? He goes, oh, I was jogging around here. Yeah, right. And I just passed to say hello to you. I'm like, yeah, right. Thinking inside, yeah, right. What is the doctor doing here? Anyway, so he goes, listen, my darling, sweetie. I got the results. And I go, yeah, doctor, what does that calcification means? He goes, wait a second. I have to tell you something. The baby is seated as I suspected. Since you have lost some liquid, most of your liquid, then the baby has no place to turn around, and I cannot turn it around to be delivered. So what happens is that you need to have a C-section. And I'm like, what do you mean a C-section? He goes, yep, I have to make you a C-section. And I go, okay, doctor, choose the date, except I don't want it to be during the finals of the World Cup, the Soccer World Cup. I don't want it to be in the finals, and I don't want it to be in Father's Day. For us, Father's Day is always the 17th of June. We are the 14th in here. And he goes, no, darling. Today, I want you in the hospital in 3 hours, please. And I'm like, what? today, doctor, are you sure? He goes, yes, today. I want you today. And then he asked for the phone. Those times that we had the disc type of phones, yeah, that long, you have to dial to get the phone. He asked for the phone in the beauty parlor. He called the pediatrician, they're friends, because this guy has recommended me the pediatrician. And he goes, so-and-so, he goes, oh, yes, hello. This is Saturday afternoon, okay? No, this is Saturday around noon that he's calling. And he tells, Dr. So-and-so, I have this patient, you know her, right? And he goes, oh, yeah. Well, I have an emergency C-session at 3 o'clock. I need you in the hospital. Now, I'm still thinking here that my gynecologist is telling to the pediatrician that it's an emergency C-section because it's a Saturday afternoon and I'm going to ruin his plans, his family plans, and the only way he can drag the pediatrician to the hospital in a Saturday afternoon is telling him it's an emergency C-section. What it happened, that it was an emergency C-section, except I just didn't get it. I just didn't get it. My baby, what it meant that my placenta was calcified meant that my placenta was almost dead. It was not feeding my baby at all. So she wouldn't be moving for the past 2 months because she was saving energy. Babies are so intelligent. She was in survival mode and she was not telling me anything and I didn't know and I didn't get it. She was in total survival mode. So she didn't have the energy to turn around. And I lost liquid, and that was like another sign that I didn't get either, and the doctor didn't get either until that moment. And so, yes, I had an emergency C-section. At 3 o'clock, my mom, I had to call her at noon, and my mom used to play golf in those days. Yeah, I come from a golfing family, and she used to play golf. And we call her to the club and send her a message. Your daughter is going to be a mother right now. she was like, she was going to swing in that moment when they told her that I was going to the hospital in that moment for a C-section. And she was like, oh my God, I have to go, goodbye to her friends. And she left. And then it was a big mess. The thing is that I had an emergency C-section and I had no clue that I was in danger and my baby was in danger. So my baby, she was a girl and I was so happy it was a girl. I didn't want a boy because the father had said that if he was a boy, he wanted to name him after him. And I didn't want to be saying that name the rest of my life. So I wanted a girl and I got a girl. Thankfully, I got a girl. And when she was born 4.5 pounds, very tiny little girl, fully incomplete. She did not need an incubator, but she was very tiny and she was like in my hand. I could carry her from here to here. It was just that big. It was tiny little thing. And I fell in love with my baby. I did fall in love with my baby. When I saw her so fragile out there and that I was responsible for that little life, I was like, oh my Lord, I need your help, God. I'm responsible for this little new human. Oh my Lord. And it was beautiful that she was safe. If she was not taken out of my belly, my tongue, on that Saturday, if the doctor would have gone, not being in the city, and he wouldn't have gone to pick me, to get me in the beauty parlor, and he would have waited for Monday, my baby would have died. I'm totally convinced of that. And I would have probably exploded because I got the preeclampsia and I would be with I would have high blood pressure since 23 and a huge mess. So it was a miracle after a miracle. I came out healthy out of the pregnancy. My baby was healthy. She was tiny, but healthy. no incubator, no emergency oxygen, no nothing. She was healthy miraculously. God saved my baby. And this is how I could see miracle after miracle. I mean, by miracle, I had a new job. By miracle, I changed jobs. By miracle, my baby was born. By miracle, there was an emergency C-section on a Saturday, and everything was good. So yeah, it was a very tough emergency C-section. It was like this at 3:30 she was born, or 3:15 she was born, really fast, tiny, 4.5 pounds, 42 centimeters. I don't know how much is that in inches, but she was tiny. She was very tiny. And I fell in love with her. And she's the best thing that ever happened to me. And she was my company. She was my life. She is my life. She's the one that pushes me to be out here in the web, to be doing this type of work, because she knows that people need to hear these stories, to have somebody to talk to have somebody that they can tell the struggles they have without being judged, without being told, don't worry, you're exaggerating. No, I know the turmoil. I know how it feels. It's so hard to be a first-time mom too. That's why I'm including not only unplanned pregnancy, but first-time mom, because when you're first-time mom, you're very naive in a lot of things. I was so naive. I had no idea. I mean, the babies are going to grow anyway. If you take care of yourself or not, if you think about it or not, the baby is still growing. Doesn't matter what you do. She or he is still growing inside you. Well, my baby was a miracle, and I know she has such a good purpose, and a great big purpose, because the enemy tried to kill her since my womb. Because I tell you, if my doctor would have been relaxed about my pregnancy, because it was a Saturday and I was going to ruin his family day, I wouldn't have that baby. I would have lost her at 9 months pregnant, and I would still be crying about her. But she's alive, and she's good, and she is a wonderful daughter. Doesn't mean I have never had any troubles with her. Yes, I have, and I'm going to talk about them later. But the point is that she's mine. She was delivered through my body. I had a C-section. I couldn't have a normal delivery, but she's mine, and she's bones of my bones, and she's part of my DNA. And I'm happy I had her. She was my company for so many days and so many months. Being a single mom is not easy, but it's doable. And because I had her, I changed my life forever. Because of her, I became a mompreneur. Because of her, I made so many different projects in her growing up years. I have had the best trips with her. I mean, I went to Europe with her, not with my other kids. I went to the Disney World cruise with her. I haven't done that with my other kids. I have done different things, many. She's privileged and she's spoiled, and she has gone to Disney World 13 times in her life. How about that one? How many kids have that privilege? That doesn't mean I have taken her. She has gone with her grandmother, with her father, with me, and in so many times. There was a season that she would go to Disney World every single summer. How privileged. None of the other grandchildren have done that, but she has. She's the first granddaughter from both sides, from her father's side and from my side, the oldest of all the grandchildren. So I'm so happy that my daughter came to me unplanned because she changed my life. And that's the story of her birth. And I'm going to talk about other parts of the stories of my unplanned pregnancy when she was already mine and being single parent and all that. But that's the second part of the story, my unplanned pregnancy with an emergency C-section. So I hope you enjoyed it, that you learned, that you can know me better, and you can trust me. If you need any help, please reach out, subscribe so you do not miss any of the episodes that I upload, and ring the bell, because for the first 30 days, I am uploading one every day from Monday to Friday. I don't know what I'm getting into, but I am doing that challenge to myself. From Monday to Friday, I am uploading a video about anything that has to do of unplanned pregnancy or leadership or motherhood or development skills, anything that has to do around starting life, adulthood with an unplanned pregnancy. And I hope you enjoyed it. Share it, subscribe, ring the bell, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.